Tell us about the Outer
How did you know
Worlds.
that's the game I wanted to talk about?
Because everyone is glowing with impressions on how this
So
game.
I want to point out one thing right away. It is the pinnacle of irony that this game has an 85 on Metacritic, because New Vegas getting 84 was the fucking impetus for the path that Obsidian has been riding on for years and years and years. That 84 on New Vegas is what caused them to miss their Metacritic bonus from Bethesda, which caused a decade-long spiral of the company almost going broke over and over and over and over again. So it is hilarious to me that this game has achieved 85. It also gives me great sadness in the way that reviews work, because this game being an 85 and New Vegas being an 84 are fucking crimes. Because you can tell from the instant you play this game that this is going to be something people talk about for a decade. It's going to be fucking incredible. It's not New Vegas 2. It is New Vegas 2 kind of thing.
Did you beat it?
No, not even close. I was only able to start streaming it relatively recently, so I've only put about 10 hours into it. But in that time, I have enjoyed it more than almost any other game this year, with the exception of Outer Wilds, which is very, very confusing.
Pour one out for poor Min, who
I saw that.
just can't keep up.
Well, it's extra confusing because Outer Wilds came out last week on PS4.
Yeah, I like we did have. I feel like I had a conversation with him about it when we played it, but yeah, no.
It's
God bless. God bless.
it
his heart.
remains very confusing.
Okay, so is this game an 85 to you?
No, this game's incredible. It's probably going to be my game of the year.
So what's up with that?
It's an RPG that had talking in it. People are dumb.
No, I guess I'm going like wherever that score came from. I don't know if you looked into what problems people had with it.
The game gets too easy apparently near the end, and some people don't care for the tone. The tone is. Have you ever played any of the Fallout games?
No.
Old ones.
I've tested 3, but it was
Okay.
it was just like compliance work on it.
So
it wasn't much beyond like.
So this is a lot closer to the first 2 games in that
Section.
that was actually made by the people who made Outer Worlds. In that Fallout 1 and 2 had this really cheery, chipper, like 50s era nostalgia kind of look to it, contrasted with Nuclear Holocaust.
Yes, I did see the intros
For just the weirdest happy-go-lucky with bleak horror.
Yeah,
They've traded in the bleak horror of like famine and murder and nuclear wasteland for the bleak horror of working an office job that you don't care about and your boss is an asshole. It is.
Oh, that's super relatable.
It is a perfect game for its time. So the background is that you are going to the outer rim, essentially, of the galaxy, in which corporations literally own planets and run everything. It is far enough away from Earth's government that it's the corporations that run everything. And it is the bleakest, saddest, funniest corporate dystopia I have ever seen in anything. To the point where I was misunderstanding some of the game's plot because it was bleaker than I thought it could be. The fucking first line of dialogue you hear from a human that you meet on the field is a jingle as he is nursing a gunshot wound. He is legally obligated to open with the company choice, the Spacer's Choice company jingle. And I misheard it about a dozen times because the jingle is, "You've tried the best, now try the rest, Spacer's Choice." And their radio jingle is, "It's not the best choice, it's Spacer's Choice." It's like,
Sure.
It's cheap garbage.
Yeah, okay.
And it's advertised as cheap garbage.
So the whole tone is bureaucracy greater than human life.
So there is an interaction relatively early on that, you ever play a game and you're like, I hate these people, I want to kill them, or I hate this town.
I mean, is that not most?
Yeah. I hate this town, I want the ability to burn this town down. you very early on talk to the foreman of the local factory, and she describes to you, because you are doing a quest in which you are extorting.
Reddit / yeah, late stage capitalism, latest possible
It's the
stage,
latest possible stage. So listen to this.
future era capitalism.
So you're doing a side quest, and the side quest is you are going around town, essentially extorting people to pay up their gravesite rental fees, which they have to pay every year in advance of their death to rent their grave from the company. People are behind on their gravesite fees.
Wow.
So you run into Phyllis, and
wow.
Phyllis is not paying her own gravesite fees. Phyllis is paying Eugene's gravesite fees.
Wait, for their own?
Well, Eugene's already dead, so she has to pay his gravesite fees. And you ask, wait, why are you paying Eugene's gravesite fees, right? She goes, well, I was his closest living relative because Eugene killed himself, right? And then she goes on to say that she didn't really like him all that much, and that what he did was really irresponsible for the company. And the dialogue option of one of them is, that's a really fucked up thing to say about a family member. She goes, what? Eugene wasn't family. To which you reply, you literally just told me you were the closest living relative.
Yeah.
And she goes, yeah, I was the closest living person relative to where his body was. I found him, so I get to pay the fine for his grave. And then she goes on to say,
oh, wow.
suicide's a crime. The technical term for it is irreparable damage of company property. What Eugene did to himself was vandalism. It is the bleakest corporate nightmare. It is the worst. And it is constant.
That is one conversation.
That's one.
Holy shit.
And it's nonstop.
Oh my God, that's intense.
I did my first stream, it was about 5 hours, and I ended it, and it's like, anyone who's worked in retail, anyone who's worked in an office with a shitty boss, anybody who's worked service is just like, die. Hey, Woolie.
That is...
Hey, Woolie.
Oh, man.
You'll appreciate this, because
Okay.
I know you've worked in an office in which this probably happened. There's a plague in this city.
Mm-hmm.
The plague is a plague. You are dying.
Yeah.
There's an email chain to people describing how, if you have the plague, you know what you should do? You should come to work and work double shifts so that, you can keep your blood moving, and the work will fortify your spirit and help beat the plague. And also, it just so happens that you don't get medicine unless your productivity is high enough.
Unless you're on shift.
I have totally had bosses tell me to come in while I'm sick, and it'll make me feel better.
Okay, so you have to imagine that the team working on this could not possibly have been like you can't have crunch on a game like this.
No, you can't.
Right? Like,
no, you can't.
Something somewhere would just break in the universe.
There's a lot of details that make you feel like the game is screaming at an industry that fucked that company over for a decade.
Yeah, that like the tone of what you just described is...
It's just... Obsidian has gotten fucked over top to bottom by Bethesda, by Microsoft, by tons and tons of companies and times. They got stuck on contract work for like 6-7 years. They got saved by Kickstarter. Like, you can feel just the but it is...
And corporate capitalist nightmare company, like, owning lives in the future has been a topic that multiple things have visited.
So somebody on our subreddit, I think it was, or maybe one of my YouTube comments, I forget, but they pointed it out and they nailed the game's tone, is that usually when you see the corporate hellscape future, it looks like Blade Runner, looks like Police Knots, it's fucking cool. This shit looks like garbage. Because why would you make it cool when it would be cheaper to make it shitty? And it's like, it is, the writing is A++, like just incredible top to bottom, constantly, over and over. Every character I met was fascinating and like genuinely actually funny. On top of that, systemically, the game does a lot of things that this type of open world, like first person RPG, have toyed with, like people have modded in. Dialogue skills give you combat bonuses. So if your persuade is really high, the first time you shoot a human enemy or damage them, there's a chance that they'll cower. Or robots will have a chance to attack each other after attacking you if your lie is really high. So it gives all these non-combat abilities that would usually just be dumping grounds for skipping content, actual combat ramifications.
The setting sounds similar to Borderlands.
It does, but done well.
Okay.
Yeah, totally. There's totally an element to that. The game looks incredible. It's super
I like
bright.
I like the art style
and colorful. It's really bright.
Yeah, the art style is strong.
It runs really well, and I've encountered no bugs. And from what I'm talking to people, almost no one has encountered any bugs at all, because it's running on goddamn Unreal Engine and not Bethesda's piece of fucking shit creation kit.
So it's exactly the nightmare that Fallout was afraid it was going to be.
It is literally showing everybody you don't need Bethesda to make these types of games. Their engine is not the be-all, end-all for these types of games. They don't have to be buggy. They don't have to be poorly written. They can just be excellent. Outer Worlds feels like the cross between the way a BioShock 1 feels, like moving around, Mass Effect's or KOTOR's structure, like, you know, the first planet, then you go to one of the four, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the Bethesda style of first person, walk around, talk to people. It is incredible. Everything about the game so far has been fantastic.
I'm going to put out an idea that no matter how bad a franchise gets, it's never completely dead and buried until a replacement shows you the power gap.
I feel like this game comes along and says, because BioShock, Mass Effect, and Fallout, as far as I'm concerned, are dead. BioShock is actually dead. Like, that company doesn't exist anymore. Mass Effect is functionally dead, and we'll talk about Fallout in a bit.
But like there's not yet been a Mass Effect replacement in that idea.
This totally
right?
scratches that itch as well. The way you talk to people, the party member, you know, that kind of thing. So far, the cast, the first party member you get is voiced by Ashley Birch. I think it's her best work yet. The second the second party member you get is a priest of the religion of this game, which is the law, which is just determinism. Woolie, you're familiar with what we used to talk about in college of the nightmare of the plan, of the physical interactions all leading to inescapable lack of free will, deterministic future?
Yes.
That's the religion of this setting.
Dominoes.
Is the plan, because the plan tells you to accept your lot in life and work hard, because it won't matter if you change.
It's a corporate religion?
Yes.
Oh man. Oh.
But it's also a real religion.
Yeah, okay.
But it's also
endorsed.
And the guy and Max, Vicar Max, totally buys in, but is also like, oh man, it's incredible. It's
pause that thought for a second.
For just 1 second.
Yeah. Sorry there. Delivery man had to drop something off at my door.
All right then.
I got it.
Enjoy your delivery, sir.
I don't know what it is. We'll find out.
But yeah, game's incredible. I will refrain from this recommendation until I've beaten it. But I've been hassling you to play New Vegas for years because I don't think you've ever played this type of game.
No.
Once I beat it, I will probably say New Vegas can wait. Play this one.
Oh, yeah.
And then if you get the taste for it, go back and play New Vegas. It's just so great. It's soul crushing. It's legitimately hard to play.
The idea of like the idea of things being as like establishing how fucked up they are with the setting, and then throwing a religious angle into the mix is like shotgun to the chest for me.
I know.
Like, that is oof.
I was explicitly reminded, like, hey, remember to tell Woolie about Vicar Max on the podcast.
That sounds awful.
Woolie, the very first quest you do for him is you gotta find a fucking heretical book about, like, I think essentially like fucking philosophist communism. You gotta burn it because it's not good for the law. But it also, but naming your religion the law gives you all these amazing moments. Like one of his combat yells is "May the law forgive you, because I won't."
Right.
And it's like, oh, that sounds great.
It's like the miracle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you got that pronunciation in your head too, didn't it? It's
yeah.
like there's a little at the end of it. Game's aces, amazing, incredible. Can't talk more good about it. It's so good. Can't wait to play it. I'll probably be streaming it later. Well, I will be streaming it later tonight.
What a fucking crazy year.
Yeah. There's no season pass for it. There's no announced DLC. There was no pre-order bonus. It just came out.
2019, really, really, really strong year for like old franchises and new smaller titles. Maybe not the best year for the blockbusters.
Probably the worst year for blockbusters ever.
But that makes it feel better.
Yeah.
It makes it feel better because it's like the things I like are having the time of their life. And yeah, that other shit is, well, it's important to put money into the industry. But fuck, man, it doesn't have to be like that. It doesn't have to be you don't have to sacrifice quality.
So the part where you just said
expand.
it doesn't have to be like that is, for the longest time, the biggest argument for Bethesda. They're the only company that really makes those kinds of games, right? Do you want a big ass giant open world RPG? You pretty much got Bethesda, but their engine is so bad, and it's been getting worse and worse because it hasn't changed, right? Like, so you go, well, that's the price you pay, right? And there was no one ever to prove it wrong. Now there's totally a game that runs on a real engine that everybody uses, and you can see it. So in a Bethesda game, every object in the world has physics and is like a pick-upable object, right? That's why you see all those goofy things. I filled my Skyrim house with 1 million watermelon, that kind of shit. When you remove a clothing item from somebody's inventory, it comes off their model, right? Stuff like that, right? You played BioShock, I know you did.
Yes.
Remember in BioShock where everything was static except for items that you could pick up and they were just highlighted?
Yeah.
Yeah, just do that. You don't actually need every item to be movable. You don't actually need every character's body to have the ability to get dragged ever. As soon as you take that shit away, the game is 1,000,000 times more stable because there's 1,000,000 things that it doesn't have to give a fuck about. One of the bigger problems with the Bethesda style RPG is that the longer the game goes on, the worse it runs, because every time you load into a new area, it has to calculate the distance from something's original position it is. Did you take it? It has to label it as gone. Did you move it? It has to label it as moved over, right?
But look how impressive it is when that body ragdolls. down to the floor after you kill it.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
But Skyrim, though.
It doesn't matter.
What?
None of it matters.
What are you playing it on?
I'm playing it on the PC on the Epic Store. You can also play it on the PC via the Microsoft Xbox Game Pass.
Game Pass,
which is currently $1
Yep.
to start.
Game Pass is the game Netflix, right?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
if you want to check it out, you can spend $1.
You're playing it on the store. Are you playing? But are you playing on a controller?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Absolutely full controller support.
Okay. Well, of course, full controller support. But I get my impression of like a game that goes like hard like that. I imagine it would be like mouse and keyboard, but
No, they've been either or since pretty much Fallout 3.
okay.
That style of game. Yeah, it's great. There's all these little things. There's stuff that I couldn't have possibly expected in terms of like things that games just don't do. I walked up to a character and one of their opening dialogue was like, yeah, I keep hearing rumors about some kind of fucking colony ship, some crazy bullshit, whatever. I'm like, oh shit. That's because I chose dialogue options earlier in earlier quests, mentioning, like telling people the truth. Yeah, I'm from a colony ship, instead of just shutting up and saying this. Stuff like unmarked quest solutions, such as, hey, I got this experimental medicine. Do I want to give it to the guy who paid me to go get it? Do I want to give it to the guy who will give it out to the sick people? Or, which are both, quest markers.
KOTOR.
Right? Or do I want to go to the constable who is unmarked and go, yo, hey, these people are trying to bribe me to get medicine that the company says they're not supposed to have. And that is a viable end to that quest.
It's the fucking KOTOR mission.
So you played KOTOR. Guess what? It's that.
Yeah.
You didn't play KOTOR 2, right?
No.
So in KOTOR 2, you find a certain robotic companion in the hold of your ship, and there's a quest line to repair him. In this game, you get in your ship, and there is a robotic companion in the hold of your ship, and you have a quest to repair them. And they're a cleaning robot. Not a cleaner, an actual cleaning robot. It is a janitor robot.
Okay, so every time you've talked about this game and every time we saw like footage of it and stuff, like I always in my brain associated it as like spiritual successor to Fallout. But you're also
Spiritual successor to
also
KOTOR.
describing it as it's wrapping one hand around Old Republic and another hand around Mass Effect as well.
Okay, so let me break it down. Obsidian is currently made out of people who invented Fallout 1 and 2, a lot of the BioWare staff who made Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, a lot of the people who made KOTOR 2, and who made New Vegas. All the fucking super famous RPGs of that era are either directly made by this team, were inspired by people made by this team, or were sequels to things made by it is. Obsidian is that 90s, early to aughts
It's where they ended
PC RPG house. That's where they all live now, with the exception of Bethesda, and that was just a style thing for New Vegas.
And did they also get anybody that was like let go from
Bethesda?
the cleanups?
I don't think so.
Okay.
But who knows what
Right.
staff. But creatives, it's like the people who were behind New Vegas and the original Fallout and some of the KOTOR people made this game. And you can... So, it's weird because you look at it and there's spiritual similarities to Mass Effect, but it's actually not similarities to Mass Effect. It's the stuff that stayed the same from KOTOR
what they used to do
to Mass Effect.
Okay.
And it's actually about KOTOR.
Okay. What how's your like when you start out, what options do you have creating your character?
You have a lot. So first of all, I was astonished that I was able to make myself in the game literally as I am now. It has the hairstyle I have right now. This I'm losing my hair, but I let my hair grow too long hairstyle. That's in there.
Classes?
No, skills. The old style skill system where you choose between, oh Christ, melee, 1 and 2 handed, guns, long guns, handguns, and big guns, stealth, which is hacking, sneaking, etc. Tech, which is medicine, hacking, the whole fucking gamut.
The whole thing. Yeah.
And the one of the more interesting things about the game is the way you level up is very different. So you had your classic, you had your perk system in the Skyrims and shit, and then you had your skills system where you would put up medicine from 1 to 100, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here they've decided that that's a lot of decisions to make really early. So for the first 50 levels of a skill, say Wooly, you want to learn guns. You want your character to use guns, but you don't know which guns. It's been an old Fallout problem that, I spec'd into energy weapons. Energy weapons are hard to find, especially in the early game. And so you can end up having a kind of miserable playthrough. When you level up the first 50 levels of all the weapons, you don't level up handguns, or you don't level up long guns. You level up ranged combat, and each of them gets 1 point every time you put a point in.
Oh, okay.
All the way up to 50. And at 50,
you start
putting it into
specifying.
one or the each. So what this means is that for the first half of the leveling process,
you can figure
you're not
out.
going, I want to be lying and sneaking. You go, do I want to be stealthy?
Yeah.
Do I want to be smart? Do I want to be like
You start broad and then
you realize, I really like
that's
persuade.
very smart.
I really like one-handed melee.
Does anyone do that?
No, it is literally the first game to do it.
That is very smart.
And every 2 levels, you also get perks, which are stuff like the ability to fast travel while encumbered, faster recharge on your VATS bullshit, stuff like that. Companions give you some of their skills. It's great. It's just great. Even their like slow down time mechanic that VATS was the one that they all used, which was hit the button, time stops, and you choose the thing. Mm-hmm. All they did was they turned it into bullet time, and time barely moves at all unless you do anything. And you aim at and it will tell you what the effect it will cause. If you shoot a guy in the leg, it'll hobble, etc. And every time you shoot or swing, it takes part of your bar. And it's the exact same system as VATS, except it's way, way faster and less of a menu.
So a lot of first-person games handle melee differently.
This game handles melee very weird. You have a 3-hit combo. You can learn power and sweep attacks. And there is a separate skill chain for defense, which includes a double jump, which is a dodge in any direction, as well as bonuses off of that dodge and invincibility off of that dodge, and types of perfect blocks. And there's a melee system in this game.
And it's not like super basic.
No. Yeah. It's super basic for my character, because I don't know shit. But you learn sweeps, power attacks, perfect blocks, and a command dodge.
Okay.
Which is plenty, honestly, for this kind of thing. Along 1- or 2-handed weapons and various whatnot. Game's great.
That's good.
Game's super good. Can't recommend it enough.